guards strength for our race, our lands. Let's go forward, partners. We should be ready to resist, to defend our rights, even if we have to die for that. Guard, strength. Some partners have been killed, but they are not going to defeat us. Because if there is one Indian that is killed, thousands will be born. Now they are mentioning some of the 112 indigenous groups in Colombia. All of these of us are aborigines or native Colombian indigenous people groups. Let's go forward. We should be ready to resist, to defend our rights, even if we have to die for that. To defend our rights, even if that means losing our lives. The earth knows, the earth breathes. We are guardians of the planet. We are guardians of the earth. We need to continue resisting and ancestral justice. In memory of the ancestors who have been killed in our fights. Good morning and good afternoon to all of you brothers and sisters who have been in this space and the cycle of webinars knitting hope, transitions in living in harmony. This is our third session of our cycle of webinars. with the topic of integral ecology in life in harmony. I welcome you all. Let's enjoy this half an hour, 1 hour and a half, because it is really important to generate these spaces where we can listen to each other, to see each other, and to analyze and act. This is the challenge. It is also a compromise. Um, uh, as uh, as human beings, we are part of the earth, and when we finish our work, we're gonna go back to the earth, the Pachamama, which is the earth. And there, it is. She's waiting with open arms to embrace us. Suma Koyanoama, which is a beautiful word that talks about health. Samakoyana Urupani means that you have to respond Orionata. So let's start our activity. Martinez she's gonna tell us about the purpose of our meeting today and what we're gonna be discussing today in this half an hour. Thank you very much. Good morning to all of you, Sumakoyana, and it is a pleasure. We are in our new webinar, which is we're going to be focusing on the integral ecology and the eco-spiritualities for life in harmony. Living in harmony is the best translation that we have found for the term, the Andean term to summa consai. As the main objective, is to share experiences and reflections. We have people invited from the Garifuna people, from the Afro-descendant people, and also from the indigenous spirituality, which is really interesting for Latin America and the Caribbean, because it is only one, but because it's a lot of different cosmovisions and that are feeding our context in the Mapuche, in the southern part of the Andean region, in the Amazonian, or Mesoamerican, in Central America. This enriches the visions of our ancestral people in how they experience their eco-spirituality. And I would like to think a little bit about this. When we talk about eco-spirituality, means we is like respect for Mother Earth, for all the life that she has generated, and to which it offers hospitality. But actually, eco is actually more than that. It's the connection between the human, and we need to connect with the creation and with the non-human. And this is a vast universe that includes not only living things, animals, plants, but also how we nourish that can nourish that cosmic consciousness, and everything is interconnected, and how we implement the practice of interrogating the system, the decision makers and institutions with power. How can we seek to identify the root causes of the brokenness we see of sacred order, promoting authentic relationships that benefit marginalized people? How we see the different models of living in harmony that the indigenous peoples have been experiencing in this eco-spirituality, and how we give visibility to learn from them. How do we risk our practice experiences with alternative forms of social and economic organization? How do we, from coherence and from the faith, we are generating a credibility, our collective credibility to harmonize experiences with prophetic action, symbols, and ritual. Now, I'd like to invite Yolanda, our dear sister, Aimara sister from the highlands in Puno, that she can share with us how they experience this spirituality. And then Yolanda has accepted, and we are grateful with her, to facilitate and moderate this session for today on eco-spiritualities. Finally, before giving the floor to Yolanda from Backstreet International, from these alliances that we have had as a working group in the Extractives in Latin America, with all the 25 organizations and networks, we would like to greet this initiative and that we continue building, taking care of the earth from the hope. And that's why we are really talking about constructing and knitting hope. So let's begin to knit. Let's begin to knit this fabric. In order to do that, my name is Yolanda Flores Montoro. I am a member of the Human Rights and Environment Impacts Christi. I am an Aimara woman, and thank to God, I am still we continue in contact with our territory, with our earth. We have just finished harvesting the presents that Pachamama has given us. And if we would like to start this experience, this reflection, human beings, people, we have like three sort of spirits, the Hayo, Animo, and the Amasi. These, it's where you have the strength and you tell people. So when you don't get scared when somebody talks to us. For Aimaras, we have a special Amasa in the Titicaca Lake, and I live, next to the Titicaca Lake. Within spirituality, within Hamasa, we start to accompany communities. I want to thank Sister Patricia that is just being together with the communities. We don't want to break our contact with the communities. Sometimes I feel empty because I'm not part of uh, of those moments of gratefulness that you go to the places, the sacred places. Now there is not even water. It's not raining. There should be rain, but there is no rain. So we have been thinking, what are we going to plant? What are we going to? How are how? What are we going to do? What is the hope that we have for the future? And we are already planning something about that. And now we have all of this thing that of Aimara culture for the Andean woman. We have one night and one day. We'll have one day, one night. And at the moment, we're getting closer to getting to the night. And to be able to go to the night, we have to be ready. The night starts for us when we begin to see we plant the seed, the Pachamama, and the Pachamama is preparing from August. She opens her arms. I am here. What are you going to give me so that I can give you back? What are you going to offer me so that I can provide? So from August, September, and October, November, and December, and in January, this is for us the night. It's night. Uh, there's moments there should not be fights. There should not be land conflicts. That's where our authorities come in, our governors. They are dressed in black. They, praying to the gods, and so that we also have the chakra or the crops that we are producing. So when the sun comes out in January, production appears, and that's what we celebrate with happiness because they are giving us the food, and that has given us the hope. So that's when we think and we say, thank you, Lord, because we have received life and we have abundance in life. And then after that, we talk about the conflicts. We have the mining concessions or licenses that are poisoning our waters. Our Titicaca Lake is seriously poisoned. When you approach a river, it moves you, it really hurts to see because you feel important because what I'm gonna do, why is my task? And I begin to talk to the Apocapillas, Apuana, please defend yourself. I will do whatever I can do, but you have to help yourself. You have, we need to defend ourselves. So fortunately, we have been able to implement monitoring systems. When I began to see this mining business has been destroyed, everything, water, salt, and lithium, but it's a water that has a pH 7.8. It's we don't even know how this water got to this place. They have actually sealed up and secluded that place, and the alpacas begin to drink that kind of water. But sometimes you need to know if your water is clean or not. And that's what we have been telling our people. You will have to decide this. I am not going to speak for you. You will have to speak for yourself. So we are accompanying in this space, and I also want to share. Uh, Saturday we visited the Waichu community in Huancanaíacho, Lima. That experience of how before they have taken away their lands, they have killed thousands of people. But I also like the slogan: the bullets of the militaries are going to finish this, but our lands will never get extinguished. And they went there to confront the army. And when the army began to shoot, then they were saying this slogan: thousands were killed. 4 people from the Waichu had been in that. People had been in that army base. And one day they said we shouldn't continue killing our brothers and sisters. We need to continue promoting life. We cannot continue shooting them. So this tells a little about the history, the story of the resistance and fight that we have been doing regarding the defense of our territories. As a challenge, we need to continue working. We need to continue accompanying ourselves. We need to continue strengthening our networks. We cannot continue doing this alone, brothers and sisters. What are you doing in your countries? Let's share. What are we doing? Let's get stronger. Let's unite because we, the indigenous people, are the guardians of nature, of our water, of our Pachamama. And I get to finish by saying, how have we received our territories? How have we bought our territories? This is something that we have inherited from our great grandparents to our grandparents and ours. So how am I going to give that away? How you have been you have taken showers, you have drunk from this water. How are we going to give up our water? We need to get together. We need to discuss and begin to see how we can solve these issues. So, brothers and sisters, it is a very complex challenge. I want to thank Pax Christi and Martinez, where you generate these kinds of spaces where we can share to say, this is my mouth and I'm here to speak. Thank you very much for listening to me, Martinez, Dario, Luisa, Nicolas, Rosemary. Thank you. Thank you very much for listening to us. That's our methodology is watch, listen, understand, and act. Oyenata. Thank you very much. Good day.
Gracias, querida Yolita.
Thank
Entonces,
you,
como
Jali.
tú eres la moderadora,
Now, since you're the
pasamos
moderator,
al
you would
siguiente
invite the
invitado
next
especial. Muchas
special
gracias.
guest. Alejandro,
Sí,
I really don't know the name. Can you help me with that, please?
tranquila Yolanda, muchas gracias
Thank you very
por esas
much
palabras y
for your
volver a
words
encontrarnos con los
and
voluntarios
meeting again
nuevamente a partir de
with
sentir
our
esos
task.
espíritus en el
Those
territorio.
with the
Amigos, nos
sensing
abren
of
los
the spirits
ojos,
in their territory,
nos dan la
they
vida.
talk to us, they
Vamos a
give us
darle
life.
la palabra
So
a
now the floor
Montserrat
is for
Figueroa,
Montserrat Pinor.
coordinadora
She's the
pastoral de la
coordinator
comunidad
for
juvenil
Pastoral
Garifuna
Juvenil
en Honduras,
Garicuna
para que
from
nos
Honduras
comparta esa
to share with us
experiencia
her
de las
experience
comunidades garífunas
of the
en
Garifuna
su visión
communities
espiritual para
and their
sentir qué
spiritual
experiencias con
visions
el
and cosmic
territorio
mission with the
y cómo a
territories,
partir de
and
ahí
how from there
promueven
they
prácticas de buen
promote
vivir,
a
de vida en
good,
armonía.
well living
Bienvenida, Montserrat.
practices in harmony. Welcome.
Muchísimas gracias, buenos días,
Thank you
un
very
gusto
much.
estar en
It
este
is a pleasure
espacio.
to be in this
Saludos a
space.
todos, ¿verdad?
I greet all everybody.
Agradecida por la
I
oportunidad,
thank you
¿verdad? De
very much
estar
for the
aquí para
opportunity
poder
to be here
compartir un poco sobre lo que es nuestra
share a
cosmovisión
little bit
espiritual
about
y
our
cultural como
spiritual
pueblo
cosmovision
garífuna.
as a
Antes de
Garifuna
iniciar, pues,
people.
¿verdad? Necesito
Before we
compartir
start,
con
I need to
ustedes
share
quiénes
with you
somos,
who we
Catzabalpa,
are
como garífuna, como
as
latino,
Garifuna.
¿verdad? Somos un pueblo
We
que
are
surgió a través del
people that
mestizaje
was born
entre
from
el
the mixture
pueblo, bueno,
between
africanos
of the
con
African
indígenas,
and
caribes,
indigenous
arahuacos,
peoples,
¿verdad?
Caribes,
Desde
Arawaks.
entonces
Uh,
inicia la historia
and
de
that's
nuestro
where our
pueblo,
Garifuna
inicia la historia de
people
nuestra
start. The history
garífuna,
starts there.
inicia nuestra
That's when
cosmovisión y
we
nuestra
start our
ancestral.
cosmovision and on
Entonces,
ancestorship.
desde ese
So
tiempo para
from
acá,
those
¿verdad?
times,
Tenemos una
since that those
historia
times,
demasiado,
we have
demasiado,
a story that
digamos,
is
amplia,
full of
bueno,
very
rica en cultura,
we're actually rich in culture, as we have had our fights, as our ancestors had their processes, their suffering. We also have God gave us back, and now we're here, the new generation, to give life to that we receive from ancestors. When we talk about spirituality, Garifuna spirituality, they puts together a series of values and principles, and it is centered on Algaramuduni, which is a phrase in Garifuna that puts together all these values and principles: the solidarity, the reciprocity, love as a foundation of living together. This is something that is deeply rooted in from our ancestors, to be able to live together. Auguni made us feel the pain of the neighbor is my pain. It is the pain of the whole community. So all the problems that we face as a Garifuna people, we face spiritual problems, social problems, political problems, health, all kinds of issues that we face as a society, as a community at the moment. Our ancestors used to face them in a different way. There was not like individualism or selfishness or any of those things. So our spirituality calls us to be reborn, to accept ourselves, to live our own identity, because that is the first step. Historically, we have suffered this issue of identity, the lack of self-acceptation, acceptance, sorry, for all the things that we have experienced so far historically. So at the moment, it's been kind of difficult to strengthen our spirituality and our identity. I think we lost communications. There seems to be an issue with connectivity. And our image of God, our image of God is that connection that we have with nature, with the Pachamama. From the moment we started that connection with the spirituality, and I say it that way because by nature, as Garifuna people, we have our own spirituality, we have our own spiritual cosmovision, but the experiencing, accepting it, and assuming it is another challenge to which have been facing day after day. Particularly the young people, it's been difficult for us young people to understand and accept it, and to see it really in a full dimension, because the system in which we have been growing and we have been raised has somehow changed the mental chip. So now we need to learn how to say, this is my spirituality, this is my ancestors, this is something that it's a challenge that we need to be able to manage. We should be able to learn how to experience it. Thank God we have had the opportunity to grow in that space where we are strengthening identity and spirituality, Garifuna spirituality. I have been able to see the process that we have been experiencing, to be able to sustain and to maintain that cosmovision, and so that our grandmothers and great grandmothers, my mother and myself, and who is the next generation after my mother, can see that the Auguni which is the foundation of our spirituality, Garifuna spirituality, is something that heals. It's something that converts you. It's something that makes you another person, a different person from what you are. It is a process where you assume the search for healing, the change of life, and somehow that connection, both with God and ancestors. And from that road, from that uh, path of spirituality, definitely you say, I have found my path, I have found myself. Because sometimes we ask ourselves, who are we? Where do we come from? Why spirituality? Why culture? Why this and that? Because we have been told that this is not God, that this is not, this is something we have that adopted, that is something that they're teaching us now. But definitely when we connect with that, like for example, in our case, in the Garifuna people, when we have our mass in Garifuna, when we connect with nature, the Bakuya, the sort of a temple, when we begin to see all the elements that are inside these spaces and we begin to connect with that, we say, really, I identify myself, I see myself, it's something that belongs to me. How I dress myself, the way I will, the way I can pray and use my mother tongue, I know that God can listen to me because I have that connection with Da Baba. And I know that that Bungidaba is that God that guides me, that listens to me, that gives me strength, that heals me, that says that I'm going to be okay, and that He listens and accompanies me. So I would like to conclude that spirituality in the Garifuna people, the Muli and Muduni, is a gift, a marvelous gift that God has given us as Garifuna people that we have to find day after day, not to lose that direction, to sustain it, to grasp it, and to get all the values that are included so that we can live as we are. A, a people that is full of wealth, that can connect with nature and God and ancestors, and that can seek healing, our own physical healing and spiritual healing. So that when I connect with my spirituality, I can say, Bung Baba, Yara Fatina Bun, God, I look for you from here so that you can heal my heart. I look for you in this space so that you can embrace, that you can listen to me. So I conclude by saying that our spirituality, our connection with God, with the Almighty, with the Baba, is not far from nature, is from our ancestorship. It is completely connected. It is interconnected. So I don't have to go away from my own ancestors to be able to live that connection with God. God, my ancestors, and my spirituality, that's what we are. That's what heals me. Thank you very much for the space. 10 minutes. It's just to give you a quick summary of everything that means to us in what is our spirituality in a few words as Garifuna people. Thank you.
Muchas gracias, Montserrat,
Thank you very much, Montserrat,
por
for
abrir el
opening
corazón
your
y el
heart, the
estómago
Garifuna
y
heart in
por
this
darnos la
sharing
posibilidad
moment,
de
and for giving us the
sentirte y
opportunity to
escucharte
feel,
en ese
to listen
proceso
to
tan
you
bonito
this beautiful process of finding ourselves from our self-recognition of who we are, our traditions, and to do it in such a way that in such a clean way that you can also find healing and to recognize
Es muy
ourselves.
especial, muy
It is
sentido. Muchas
really
gracias. Pues
special.
luego
It's
sí,
heartfelt,
como
and
ese 10
we want to
minutos fue
thank
muy
you.
poco,
10 minutes is very
esperamos
short, and
poder
we would
dar
love to
un
give you
espacio mucho más
much more
amplio.
time.
Esto es lo que nosotros queremos
This is
compartir
something that we'd
precisamente en
like to
este ciclo
share
de,
in this
webinarios,
cycle of
es poder
webinars.
mostrar
It's to be
esa
able to
gran,
show this
incluso
immense.
hablando precisamente hacia la COP16, que es sobre
I mean, thinking about
biodiversidad.
COP16
La
in
biodiversidad no
biodiversity,
es solo en
just to
temas de
see
flora y
biodiversity is
fauna,
not the
sino
flora and
también de
fauna. It
pueblos, de
is also the
espiritualidad, de
biodiversity of
sentir.
spiritualities and the
Entonces,
feelings that we
ese
have
gran
about this.
tejido de
So
esperanza
this
lo queremos
the
construir a partir de
fabric that
ahí
we are
y
building
seguiremos desde luego
and that we will
profundizando estos
continue
temas
building,
con cada uno y
so that
cada
we
una de
will continue
ustedes.
getting deeper into those
Muchas
topics
gracias.
as we progress. Thank you
Agradecida,
very much.
agradecida.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Bien, vamos entonces a darle la palabra
So
ahora a
now
Darío
the floor
Solano.
is for
Él
Dario
es de
Solano.
la Red
He is from the
Afrodescendiente de República
Afro-Descendant
Dominicana.
Network in the
Bienvenido, Dario.
Dominican Republic. Dario,
Te
welcome.
doy los 10 minutos
Do you have your 10
y
minutes?
tú me dices entonces en qué
And
momento
you tell
empezamos
me
a
when
proyectar
we would
también
like to, you'd like
los
us
videos.
to project the
Ahora sí.
videos that you sent us. Thank you very much. A warm greetings from the Dominican Republic. For me, it is symbolic, and I am full of happiness to be able to share with all of you in a day like today, listening to the introduction and the themes, and how that generates like internal process of reflecting when we talk about hope, when we talk about spirituality, when we talk about harmony. You assuming it from the Afro-descendant peoples and our present in America and the Caribbean has been a product of the most horrendous crime produced by humanity. That was the slavery. When you talk about from Caribbean, because we were a product of this colonial extractivism of people. Today we continue being victims that we are facing a model that still keeps the colonial dimension and that has constructed a social pyramid where being black or Afro-descent or being indigenous um, turns you into a third or fourth level citizen in the Eurocentric categories. And I say this because I am very happy to be able to share this short moment with you with a series of symbols that makes us redirect the concept of spirituality. And how can we experience spirituality in a community that has arrived in a territory from forced migration, from that where they were transported and they found themselves in a hostile niche to what the way of living was before, their sense of belonging, the relationship with the cosmos, and the relationship with nature. This implies a reconstruction, a readaptation from how to recreate a spirituality from the ancestors into a niche that is necessarily is he or she is forced to live in and to develop a process of building a sense of belonging and to give a different dimension of life from spirituality, because from the point of view of the material aspect, in the ship they only included that spirituality, that connection with Mother Africa, uh, only in memory, in the brain, of how to reconstruct that life. And now today, when we talk about spirituality, harmony, uh, we're talking about healing. We understand that a continent that has to heal, and particularly in the Caribbean case, also associated to today's celebration, is that uh, indigenous people, living indigenous peoples were turned into dead Christians. It was so overwhelming, the process of colonization, that we were just left i- that we had to develop a process of self-identity, and that space has continued to be suffering of violence and being colonized, not only the material territory, but also that spiritual territory of building identities, where what is important is what has the possibility of being consumed. So in our communities today, in the process of accompanying a resistance of communities and eco-spirituality, in the case of Pacific and Dominican Republic, sorry, and the Caribbean and Latin America, is translated into efforts of resistance to the extractivist model that continues displacing us, continues creating conflict at the internal level to destroy communitary cohesion. And in the case of the Dominican Republic, most of the source of ways of living, the earth, agriculture, and mainly of our rivers and our resources, or our goods, natural goods. In this moment, most of these rivers and basins have been licensed to mining industry. All of them produce coming from the United States or Canada. But in the same way, in this belonging, sense of belonging, where the guard of where the fight of the Afro-descendant people in the Caribbean and our country, it is precisely that impetus that is basically presented in a spirituality that continues to fight and continues to maybe lose a battle, but it is uh, continues reconstructing itself in our subsistence. So nowadays we have some images of those fights that were the models that are being presented by governments in the Dominican Republic has been on the basis of offering these licenses, mining license, displacing the communities, putting, making it clear that they are just basically a giveaway government. And in many cases, the lines of spirituality, the imaginary is not in agreement with the official speech, with the official way of seeing progress from the political and economic powers, because that basically that view implies the destruction of mother nature, and that is also to has to do with the breaking of the community fabric. And so now that's why we need to stand up and continue defending the spaces where the life grows, the spaces where the relations are built, where we reconstruct our identity processes in the territories. Nowadays, the Afro-descendant communities have, armed with that spirituality. We are facing mining in the streets. We face mining with our drums and our spirituality, and there is a defense process in the territories, despite the attempts to have social discrimination. But the communities continue defending the spaces where life grows. Now there are 3 communities. We are going to be presenting 2 experiences very briefly. The images of people who have been victims of the multinational companies, such as the Yamasa community, that has been confronting the Barrick Gold, one of the largest mining companies in the world. But the Yamasa in the Motuhuaca province has been able to stand up as a town to defend the river basin and defend agriculture, the sustainable agriculture, and not to allow this business expands mining as they want to, that is not only in the Dominican Republic, but also to put at risk the whole ecosystem of the Caribbean system and the Santo Domingo Island that we also share with Haiti. I would like to present these images of a large demonstration that underwater, under the rain, people left and they said not to bury gold and also to tell the government that the spaces have to be defended despite the compromises that the government has agreed with those companies. This is how we express that. We say we are here and we absolutely a colonialist project that does not correspond with our expectations that it's going to be confronted. So these images. This is under the rain. And all the communities go to the streets to ask the government, the opposition to mining, we're going to defend the earth even with our lives, because the Barry Gold expansion would put it at risk the river basins that provide about water for 3 million people in the greater Santo Domingo area, the capital city. However, the governments just permit and they compromise our stability because of economic interests. Despite this fight, the government had to decide not to give the license, of environmental license, to the mining, because the social mining had been denied by the whole community. And in that process of communities, we present an interesting, more ecumenic relationship where the churches, which in general could be partners in crime with some companies, and now with young people and the people with the churches went to the streets to defend agriculture, family agriculture, the river basins, and that makes evident the ability to resist and to fight that we are suggesting in the communities. Nowadays, in our town, something that has been mentioned is that the vindication that we have implies that it is important to talk about reparation. It is a moral reparation. It is also spiritual reparation. It is also environmental reparation. Amid a situation of the world, the effects of climate change, the issue of the losing of biodiversity of COP16, and the issue of pollution. So we are in the middle of a model, a development model that is destroying life, hence the soul of our people from a perspective of Afro descendants, because we talk about one additional crisis, which is the systemic racism. We said that we need to have a reparation and healing process, because this neoliberal model cannot satisfy the should not affect the hope of our peoples. Thank you very much, Dario. It is a very, very strong your reflection, particularly, building this fabric and knitting this fabric, and the memory that you have in the regions, this memory of pain from a colonial point of view, the extractivist model that we continue resisting. I would like to welcome now Fernando from the network of Church and Mining, who has presented a special effort to transform this colonialist trademark that has imposed a lot of pain in towns and peoples in the Americas, and that through the recognition of these diverse forms of connecting with God, with Mother Earth, and with a greater spirit,
formas
we
para que la
have
ecología
been able
integral
to find
sea esos caminos de
integral
poder
ecology being
articular
implemented
diversas
to
formas de vida
articulate
que nos
different
protejan
ways of living
a nuestras
that can
comunidades, pero
protect our
también
communities, but
a esa
also
gran casa
to
común.
this wider
Entonces,
common
Fernando,
house.
bienvenido y
Fernando,
tienes 10
welcome,
minutos.
and you
Muchas
have 10
gracias.
minutes. Thank you. Thank you. To say hello with a lot of respect. And the words from Yolanda, from Dairo, I am from a church, and I understand the role that we have been, the Christian ideology has played in these processes. And I'd like to talk about one particular element that Yolanda Damonserrat presented. When you talk about secularization, they talk about some periods of history when the independence is. So it is very clear that from the colonial violence, and clearly, and one of the most brutal acts that was the bringing brothers from Africa in a brutal violence is something that continues in the colonial periods through the pedagogies and the schools, etc. Seems as if it were something that already happened, but no, it is still present. Why? Because our brothers are from Garifonas to the indigenous peoples to our descendants have an awareness of their own bodies, our own collectives, our own life. That continues to be. There is still discrimination. There's this systemic racism. This continues continues operating. The point is, how does that operate? It is really important. First, it is to bring our ancestors in the past that is over. As if the first so the focus was basically to tell people who were brought as slaves, say, your ancestors do not exist, they are lost. So in the colonial the colonial times imposed this idea that before there was nothing, and now that the future is something that's going to be marvelous and much better. I'd like to remind you of a little text. In Brazil, the slaves were baptized. Uh, you are here with chains. You think you're suffering because you have lost liberty? No. When you were Africa, they were slaves of the demon. Now, even if you are suffering with the chains, temporary chains, it's something that it shows you. How can you separate the body from the soul and to establish an ideology that serve to chain, to subordinate people? With the indigenous people, when you talk about ancestors, they put them forward. In the Mapuche people, when we pray to the ancestors to the forward. The first thing is we have to subvert this lineal concept of time that we are advancing to the modern things, because that's not the Christian time. God is absolute present. We are always in front of Him, and our beloved ones are ahead of us, not behind. Not a past that has to be forgotten. That is one of the problems that we have found in secularization models that we have applied. That is to establish the chronological time where God is put in the future, how the institution takes you to the future. And therefore, it was the foundation to say that your spirituality, your drums, your language, your spirituality is that from the past. It's something that should not exist. I bring you the mother, the future, the truth. After 500 years, sisters brought from Africa, Garifunas, and people who had been here, had been suffering all this violence. We now listen to you saying we are here and this is our faith. We do not separate the trees, the water from mountains from our life and spirituality. And that is a resistant basis. Because the colonial model that was used among the things that, well, after separating the body and soul, also separates the body from the nature. If you see, for example, when the paintings in the churches of bodies that are going to the heaven, but the world is seen as something that was a sin, that's really strong, especially when the church begins to get too tied up to the in Roman Empire. Just imagine in Juan, when you listen to John, the John the Evangelist, that for him everything was created, and without him nothing was created. So when you talk about separating the act of creation from the act of salvation, is something that subordinates nature and bodies to ideological models. And that's why this serves as a way to create slavery. So when we talk about in indigenous we talk about indigenous spiritualities are like folklore. They sell it for tourism attention. We are not tourist items. We are resistances. Our bodies, natures, our spirits are all united. That's why we dance, we sing, the drums, the ancestral rituals, the mountains and the water bring back the unity. Thank God I have some elements that allow me to reconstruct my identity. The resistance are spiritual or they are nothing. Because if there is no spirituality, we will continue accepting a model that of a model that will make us believe that we should have all the things that we don't need. There is an issue with the body and the desire and the nature. That means attacking the basis of what God created. If God didn't create the body and the desires of a body, then we have a dualism in the European visions. Resistance in the spirituality and the indigenous peoples and the descendants in our continent is based in that we don't accept separation of the body from the soul and the body from the nature. And that's why we need to dance. If your light doesn't, I mean, if your fight doesn't include dance, I don't like it. So if you provide dance and the music to somebody with African descent, the rights, the respect for water, you can bring anybody from Africa and they can recreate a new world because it is a knowledge, a spiritual knowledge. One of the problems, the most serious problems in our churches nowadays, is to think that the churches have a monopoly of the Holy Spirit. And the Holy Spirit is actually the freedom of beliefs provided by God. So the Spirit can be blowing, for example, the wind. So do we decide where the Holy Spirit is? So when Dario said these resistances have a macro, we cannot continue insisting that my church has the whole truth. If you say that my church is a unicorn, no, plurality is the issue, as a key issue here. And the plural views is the happiness of the tenderness of the divine strength. We have been discussing for a long time the scientific value of traditional religions, as if God had divided people into some very good ones who received all the truth and others that live in a dark world. Despite this situation,
Vas bien, tienes 2 minutos.
and I would like to Dairo, Monserrat, and Yolanda to tell you, please guide us in this process of decolonization, because particularly in the churches, we are totally ideologic we have a biased view of the world. If we don't have an experience of God in this in nature, which is the first word created by, sorry, the first space created by God. If death means leaving this world, so why Apocalypse says we will have new heavens and new earths. I'd like to thank you for your words. Thank you very much for your time.
Yo pediría, si es posible, querido Fernando, con la gratitud
With the
y
gratitude and the
cariño
confidence and
que
the
tenemos, si es
with
posible que me
the
tome 5 minutitos más,
he
si
could
estás de
take
acuerdo,
five
amigo.
minutes, Alejo. I don't know,
Creo
because
que
I,
necesitamos un
I think that
poquito
we
más de
need
tu inspiración
more
para
of your
luego darle
inspiration
tiempo
to
a
then give
nuestros
floor
invitados
to our
que puedan
guests
reaccionar y
for
darle los
questions and
comentarios. ¿Está bien
comments.
para
Is
ti?
that okay with you? Just to continue for a few minutes more? I would like to two things. The being and the time. The indigenous and Afro-descendant understanding of a body is very important. Our body is not simply something that you can discard. The body, from the body you form the spirit. We are spiritual beings. We are not bodies and then spiritual beings. We are spiritual beings, and that's why the ancestors are with us. It is very important to have those words in mind. One of the most important obligations of the colonial aspects is to get to a land and say that your ancestors do not work, that they don't exist, that they are in hell, and that new ancestors, they are holy, and they go to your place, they are alive. So I will give you names to you. Your names are not important. In some places, they prohibit the indigenous names. Uh, the body is not separated to the water or the earth. So the issue with colonial view is to separate life, mountain, forest, as something that were separate compartments. So the real altar of the earth is this unity of the body, the nature, and the spirituality. Because we continue imagining as if God were outside of reality. Well, but if it's his own creation. It has to be manifested in the creation. And second, culture and nature are only one thing. We don't know a nature that is separated from humans. In some universities, they tend to say that the culture, it belongs to them. You write in English if you are called, but your nature, you're wild. You don't want you produce some handicraft. You are just nature, but that's not good. Our resistances are in body and spirit as a unity, with the presence of God in our lives. The process of decolonization come from spiritual reflections, and that's why we need to dance. We need the remedies that nature provides us with. It is very difficult for a settler or, to pray to the mountain, because for them that's one thing. For the very gold is, I mean, a mountain can be just gold and money. For us, no. We need to protect it. We need to have a profound reform in our churches, in the school systems. uh, the- that should happen within the communities to reviewing our communities. Sometimes when you give the kids to those colonialist organizational institutions, they will basically reproduce that kind of model. So that's like where I'd like to close. Thank you.
Muchas gracias, Fernando,
Thank you very
por
much, Fernando,
tu
for
reflexión y por
your
este
reflections
llamado tan
and for
importante
this
precisamente
call
una revisión
for a
profunda de la
review,
Iglesia
a
Católica,
profound review in the Catholic
porque no
Church,
podemos
because we cannot
construir un mundo en paz
construct
si no
a world in
logramos
peace if
encontrar y
we
reconocer
can't find and
en esa gran
recognize
hermandad y
this
diversidad de los diferentes
brotherhood and
pueblos, no
sisterhood
solo en América
in the
Latina y
peoples
el
in
Caribe,
Latin
sino a
America
nivel
and the Caribbean, but in the
entero.
world.
Y asimismo, tal
And
vez si
in the
Dios
same way,
emplease un
maybe
poco
to be
esa
able to
energía colonialista dominadora que ha estado ahí
control that
generando
colonialist
maltrato,
energy that has only
resentimientos
imprinted the pain
precisamente
with
por las
to our
formas
people.
de ser
yeah, and
una
also
naturaleza
promoting other ways
extraordinaria,
of being
digamos,
with nature, as today
una
we are
significatud, porque a
giving
partir
meaning to,
desde esa
because that
esencia,
is
pues uno
precisely
empieza
where
a
from that
conectarse con esa conectar con la
spirituality,
madre tierra,
where
que
you
podemos
cut
empezar
the
entonces a hablar
umbilical cord
de
with
qué tipo
Mother
de
Nature.
sociedad queremos
Then
construir,
that's the
de
moment
qué
to ask
tipo
a
de
question:
modelos
what kind of
de
a
política
community
o
do we want to
geopolítica
build?
u otras cosas más.
Uh,
Pero esa forma
Political or
intersubstancial,
biopolitical,
a partir
but
de lo
that's not
elemental, que podemos empezar
what
entonces
is
a
basic here
construir,
is to be able
porque
to
esto no es
construct,
meramente un discurso
because
como
that
un
is not
discurso
only a
teórico,
speech where
sino
that
que
is
lo podemos
solving the
ver
theoretical discussion, but it is
efectivamente
something that we need
bueno
to
en el sentido
see
en que
that it
práctico en
is
el
good, it
territorio,
is practical in the
en
territories,
nuestra
that it
experiencia
is
se
in our
puede
experiences that we
desarrollar.
can develop this
Queremos
model.
entonces darle
I'd like
nuevamente las
now
gracias
to
a
thank
Yolanda, a
Yolanda,
Montserrat, a
Montserrat,
Dario, a
Dario,
Fernando,
and Fernando.
y queremos
And
abrir la
now
palabra para
we'd
que
like to
ustedes
open
también
the
nos
space
compartan
for your
sus comentarios, sus
comments,
reacciones, sus
reactions.
inspiraciones en
Uh,
este seminario que
in this
ha dejado
seminar that
bastante
has been
inspirador,
so
bastante
inspiring
motivador
and so motivating
nuestro ejercicio
from
en la
our
región.
exercise in the region.
Y queremos entonces pedirles, pueden solicitar la palabra,
If you would like
comentar,
to raise your hand or just make a comment,
quien
the floor
desee
is
por aquí
yours.
pedir la palabra.
If you would like to raise your hand or begin to talk.
Bien, mientras tanto,
In the meantime,
también lo pueden escribir en el chat
you can also
de la
send your
plataforma de
questions
Zoom.
to the chat in
Queremos
Zoom.
ofrecerle excusas
Would like
a
to
las
offer you
personas que hemos
apologies
intentado ingresar
for those people
a
who wanted to
este
enter
seminario por
to
Zoom.
this seminar.
Tuvimos
We
desafortunadamente
had
un
a very
boicot
unfortunate
antes de
boycott
iniciar y por
because
eso
the call
decidimos
was
no abrir la sala
hacked,
de Zoom.
and that's why we decided not to
Esta
open the Zoom
conferencia, este
room.
compartir, mejor de palabra, está siendo
It has
transmitido
been
por Facebook
broadcasted
Live en vivo
through
y
Facebook
será
Live,
también
and
colgado en el canal de YouTube
it will
de
be also
Pastores
present in
Internacional
Patrick's
América Latina y el
International
Caribe. Ahí lo van
YouTube
a poder
channel in the
encontrar entonces en español,
Latin
inglés y
America and the
portugués.
Caribbean. You can find it in
Quiero
Spanish, English, and Portuguese.
darle la palabra
I'd like
nuevamente a
to invite
Yolanda,
now
a Dario.
Yolanda.
Montserrat ha
Dario
tenido también un
Monserrat
problema de
has
energía,
had
por
the
lo
issue
cual
with
no se encuentra en estos
power,
momentos en
so
sala,
she's not
pero
connected.
quisiera ya
But
para empezar
just to close,
darles unos minutos a
to
cada uno
give you
nuevamente para
each one
que
of you a
ya
minute,
en esta primer reflexión grande de de dónde
so that
surge
you can
nuestra
round up
espiritualidad
your reflections
y
as
bueno,
to
antes
where our spirituality comes
de
from.
darle la palabra a
Before doing
Yolanda, le voy a
that,
dar la
I'm
palabra
gonna
a Víctor
invite
Hugo
Victor Hugo
de
Pacheco
Comprego, Guatemala.
from
Víctor Hugo,
Comprego,
adelante.
Guatemala. Victor Hugo, please.
Sí, buenos días.
Good morning.
Ha sido muy
This
interesante
has
todas
been
sus
very
ponencias
interesting to listen to your
y a mí de
presentation.
todo lo que
And from all the things that I have
como síntesis
heard,
es que nuestros pueblos de
I
toda América
think
Latina
that
y aquí
all
en Guatemala que además que he
the
demostrado
indigenous
han
peoples in
pasado de
Latin
ser
America
como
um, and the
pueblos
Caribbean have
objeto
turned
de
from
ayuda, de
objects
apoyo
for
y han
support,
empezado a ser
and they
actores
have
políticos.
begun to be
Y eso ha
political
sido
actors.
clave aquí en
And this has
Guatemala
been
frente a la
key in
defensa.
Guatemala
Yo
in
creo
the
que lo que
defense
Fernando ha
of rights.
expuesto,
What Fernando has
nuestros
exposed
pueblos lo han
today
venido comprendiendo
is something that
con mucha
our
claridad.
people have
Incluso
already implemented.
pueblos
I
indígenas
could
con los
even
que
say that
trabajamos, el pueblo
indigenous
Chortí,
people
el
like the
pueblo
Chorti,
Ocomama aquí en Guatemala,
Ocomama in Guatemala
plantean ellos desde su fe,
propose from their
no,
faith,
no dejando de ser católicos,
not without
desde su fe
stopping
ya
being
plantean
Catholic,
una crítica muy
to
clara a
have
la
a
religión
critical
tradicional, a
view
esta
of the
religión
traditional church,
sagrada,
this
y que tienen
marginal
claridad
church,
que la cruz
and they are very
fue
clear
también un
that the
instrumento
cross
de
was
conquista
also an
y
instrument of
colonización y que sigue en
conquering
este
and
tiempo.
colonization that
Y
continues
es
up to this
interesante ir
moment.
a
It is very
Chichicastenango de
important to
Guatemala
go to Chicastenango
y
de
ver
Guatemala,
cómo los
Guatemala,
pueblos
and to
indígenas
see how
entran a
indigenous
ese templo
peoples
porque está
enter
sobre,
that
entran
temple
sobre el templo católico
that is
que
actually
está
constructed
sobre un templo maya o un
has been
altar
constructed
maya.
over a
Y
Mayan
de seguro
altar.
que cuando uno ve a
And
los
for sure,
pueblos
when you
orando
see that they are
es su
praying
devoción, pero
and
no
doing
están orando a Dios
they are
cristiano.
not
Es
praying
una, están
to the Christian
orando,
God.
están ahí, están
It is something that we are
pidiendo a
very
Dios,
clear,
les dio la vida y pidiendo a sus ancestros
and
y a
they are
nuestros ancestros,
there
porque yo
praying to
soy
their
uno maya,
ancestors.
maya
Because I'm a
quiché,
little
a
Maya
nuestros
Quiche,
ancestros.
but
Es
our
una
ancestors,
reivindicación de la lucha.
that
De hecho, los
vindication
mensajes
of
en
a
WhatsApp
fight.
son de
So
reivindicación,
all the
de
messages in WhatsApp are of
reivindicación, de
vindication,
reivindicación, y eso es lo que seguimos
and this is something that we
fortaleciendo
continue
desde aquí, desde
strengthening
nuestro
from a
movimiento.
hope,
Bueno,
as you have mentioned
gracias
before.
a todos.
Thank you very much to all of you.
Gracias, Víctor.
Thank you
Así
very
es.
much, Victor.
Hay
That's exactly the
que
idea.
dejar un poco de, como lo compartía también Fernando, folclorizar
It's not
la
just
cultura y
we need to stop making
reconocerla
the culture,
como
the indigenous
una
cultures
fuerza
as
política
something that is
también
folkloric,
en el término
and to really think
completamente
about
amplio. Y es
a wider
efectivamente
view,
lo que
uh,
muchas organizaciones
which is
eclesiales
something
dentro del
that
espacio político
many
internacional, la red de crisis y minería
church
y otras más
organizations,
han
amongst them
venido
past
trabajando, y es la
Christi,
apuesta que
have
queremos
done, and it
desarrollar
is
en este
exactly
programa como
something
tal,
that
y
we
será
want
parte
to
de
do.
la ecología
It is
integral,
a step to
porque ahí
understand the
están
concept of
propuestas, no solo
integral
retrocesas dentro
ecology.
del capital
These are
y el
proposals that are not
control
included in the
eurocentrista que
capitalism or in
buscan
the
desarrollar
Eurocentric
soluciones
model,
para
that we're going to be
transitar
able to find
a
the
modelos de
solutions
energía,
to
modelos
models of new models
ecológicos
of
que
energy and
correspondan a esa misma
socio-ecologic
lógica,
that correspond to the same
sino
logic.
transitar a
But
una vida
to
en
be able to
armonía en la que se
transit to the life in
comprometen la
harmony,
sanación de los
to
territorios,
what do we
logran
call
mejorar
as
las
the
condiciones
healing
de
of the
vida
territories,
de
to improve
todos y en
the ways
todas.
of living for all the
Quiero
people
entonces darle
there.
nuevamente, y sí,
So I'd like
dándole
to
la
now,
palabra
I'd like
a
to
Yolanda. Voy
give a word
a,
to, I'm going
gracias
to,
Yolanda.
Yolanda,
Gracias.
please.
Yo quiero agradecer
I
a
want to
Darío,
thank
a
Dario,
Fernando
Fernando, and Montserrat
por la propia experiencia que
for
vivimos
the
nosotros
experiences that we have
los,
here.
los pueblos indígenas. Y ahí quería
And I'd
resaltar
like to
acerca
highlight
de lo que dijo
something
Fernando.
that was mentioned by Fernando.
Para nosotros
For us,
el cerro no es solamente
the,
recursos
the
para,
mountain
no,
is not
tiene
natural
vida.
resources.
Ahí,
It has a
esa es
life.
nuestra botica, es nuestra farmacia
This
del
is
pueblo
our
indígena, de los
pharmacy
Aymaras.
for the
Las
Aimara
orillas de los
people.
ríos, las orillas
The
ahí está nuestra
riverside,
medicina.
that's where our
Y junto
medicines
con
are.
ellos los
And
necesitamos.
together
Yo
with
lo
them, they
necesito a la
need us,
planta, y
and
la planta me da su
we need
vida
them, and
para
they need
poder
us.
ir
The
viviendo en este tiempo, ¿no? Y por otro lado, también
on the other hand,
quería compartir.
I'd like to share
A
with
mí
you.
me preocupa, ¿verdad? Mira, yo
I
soy de
am
esta
really
generación.
concerned. I'm from this
Preocupa
generation.
porque
I'm
mis
really
hijas
concerned
ya han
because my
migrado.
daughters
¿Por qué han
have
migrado?
migrated. Why
No
did they
porque ellas han
migrate?
querido, sino
Because
nosotros mismas,
they
¿no? ¿Cómo nos han formado? Nos dicen,
because
tú
if
eres
we
del
educate you in one way,
campo,
if you are a
no,
person
no,
from
tu
the
opinión no
countryside,
vale,
your
la
opinion is not
tierra es
important.
pobreza, tú te
The
vas a
earth
los
is
montes.
the
Mira,
soil is
¿cómo nos
poverty.
hacen
You're gonna
mentir?
be
Yo me di
poor,
cuenta
and
ahora,
that's
digo,
what we have been
hijo,
educated in.
el gran
And
error,
I made a
no sé
mistake.
decirlo así,
I don't
debería
even know
decirlo,
how to say
miren,
this.
estudien,
But
vayan a la
please study,
universidad,
go to the
ahí
university.
van a ser mejor.
You're
Mira,
going to
me
be better.
equivoqué y
I
salí
was
de ahí.
wrong.
Ahora
And
mis
I
hijas
left.
hablan su idioma, el Aimara,
I
tienen
speak
conversación y
Aimara.
todo, pero sus
They have
hijos,
contact,
mis
but
nietos
my
ya no hablan
grandkids
Aymara,
don't speak Aimara.
hablan inglés.
They speak
Y me
English,
duele. Y yo dije,
and
mi
it really
idioma,
hurts.
mi
This is my
cultura,
language, my
mis
culture,
espiritualidades
my
va a morir
spiritualities
con mis
are
hijas.
gonna die
La
with
gran
my daughters.
interrogante, la gran
That is the
pregunta. De
biggest
veras que
question.
para
For
mí,
me,
para mí es un reto. No, mira cómo
it's a
nos han
challenge.
metido y mira cómo he cometido.
And
Ahora,
look
hacerles retornar,
what I
no,
have
esta no es
done.
mi casa, quiero ir.
So that
Por
when they
otro,
come here, they say, "No, this is
otro
not my
lado,
house. I
lo
want to leave."
decían también los
What I
pastores,
just
los
said,
obispos.
the
A mí me
shepherds,
da
the
mucha pena.
bishops. I'm really
Quiero
sorry,
compartirles
but I'd
el
like
obispo de la
to tell you
Prelatura de
that
Tulcán. Todos los días entro en el periódico. ¿Qué dice? El
the bishop
gobierno de
in the
Romero
newspaper
se ha llevado cosas de la casa de
has
retiro a
taken
Cusco.
away money
El
from the has been
obispo
stealing money.
y la doctora. El obispo.
The bishop and the doctor.
Mira nuestros pastores en vez
Look
de
at our
acompañar
shepherds.
al pueblo que lucha,
Instead of
al
being with the
pueblo que
people,
estamos gritando
the-
justicia, están en
these
otras
people that is
cosas
crying for justice,
nuestros
they are
pastores.
in something different.
Entonces, quizás deberíamos de reflexionar este
We should
espacio
reflect
y ten en
in
cuenta que
those
si soy
spaces
parte de la prelatura,
because if I'm part of a
yo vengo de
community,
los raíces de los padres hermanos Mérinos,
because
pero me duele mucho
come
todo
from a
lo que están
Christian
haciendo,
culture,
todo lo que no han
it really
valorado el
hurts
trabajo
me
que se ha hecho,
because
¿no?
they
Entonces,
don't value the
yo
work that
quiero
we have been doing.
felicitar y
So I'd
seguir
like to
reflexionando,
congratulate and continue
viéndonos y
reflecting
analizando
and
qué
watching and
caminos
analyzing
vamos a
what
encontrar para
roads are we
seguir
gonna
viviendo.
find to continue
Necesitamos
walking.
en el
We need
grupo buscar caminos para
to find
construir
ways to construct
esperanza, vida, lo que
hope,
dijo Marta Inés,
life, what
para el
Martinez
hecho a
mentioned.
suma y causa y mencionaste, no suma, no, entonces suma jacaña, suma camaña es para los aymaras.
These are
Entonces
words that
nosotros,
were summarized by
este
the
tema
Amairas in two
vivir,
native words.
y,
So this issue
veremos
of
que el
continuing
hombre y
living,
la mujer somos
uh,
complemento,
that
no somos
men
el
and
mismo
women are a
complemento.
complement.
El
We're not
hombre
only
es
a complement.
complemento, yo soy
The
complemento del agua, es mi
the
complemento, yo
hill
soy
is a
la
complement. I am
complementaria.
complement of water. Water is
Nuestros
complement of
hacen
me.
el chachahuar,
and
Hombre y la
the
mujer
importance of
es
Chashawami,
muy fuerte en
brother,
las
modern
comunidades.
women is really strong in
Entonces,
the
dentro de
communities.
unos
So
podamos
maybe in
ampliar
next discussions we will be able to widen on this
Suma
part, the
Koyan
topic.
Rukana.
Muchas gracias, Yolanda. Así es,
Thank you, Yolanda. That's
nos han
exactly how it
tratado de
is.
empobrecer desde nuestros corazones
They have
y es
tried to
parte del proceso de
impoverish
recuperar esa ancestralidad y
our
sostenerla.
hearts.
No
And it is
somos
part of our
hombres,
work is to
no
continue
buscan
strengthening our
empobrecerse
spirituality.
y parte de esto es volver a conectar. De ahí
And
lo
we need to
decía
connect again.
Fernando y todo, yo creo que todos
Fernando
estamos
said
de
that,
acuerdo y
and we all
todas,
agree,
desde la etnoeducación, volver a
from the ethno
conectar esa
education
parte educativa y
to
encontrar
strengthen
ahí
this educational
esa
part,
reconexión, porque si
to
tú
be
lo
able to
dices,
find that
y yo hago un
reconnection.
paréntesis y me tomo ahí unos segundos, si tú lo dices desde
If you
allá,
say from there,
nosotros tal vez
we
pareciéramos que no tenemos raíz,
don't apparently have
pero efectivamente
roots
buscando y encontrando nuestros territorios, por
trying to
ejemplo, quienes
visit
viven
our countries.
territorio Pijao, quienes estamos en la ciudad y vemos que
Those of us who are in the
el
cities
relato moderno casa
see
carro
that the
reina y
new
eso no
narratives
llena, genera
uh,
ese vacío interno,
generates
pues
a
queremos por el
huge
contrario
void
retornar.
internal. So we really
Y
want
es
to go
parte de
back,
este proceso, y
and it
es
is part of
parte
that
del
process,
agradecimiento
and it
a
is part
cada
of
uno y a cada una de ustedes,
sense of
de las diversas
gratefulness that
comunidades
we
que
have
mantienen ese reto, ese
of
fuego,
those
ese
communities that
filo,
still have
dándolo y esa
this
llama de la vida.
fire
Entonces es muy importante
of
el
hope.
ver también esos otros
So it
hijos
is
que
really
estamos
important to
tal vez
see
queriendo volver
other
a conocer y
kids
a
that
mantener
we
esta memoria viva.
are having to
Muchas
help them
gracias. Le
see and
doy la
learn more about
palabra
that living
al
memory.
Solano
And now, Daido, please,
para un mensaje ya de cierre, de esperanza desde el proceso que viven allí en República Dominicana.
from the Dominican Republic processes. So thank you very much again. I think that this sharing today represents a lot of the challenges. And one of the challenges, and that spiritual connection, harmonic connection that comes from this path. It also generates the need to subvert the concept of spirituality, of the harmony, of the hope that sometimes we build based on what we are not. And I say that keep in mind that the Latin America and the Caribbean is a territory, the most unequal territory in the world. What is hope important for? Only to resist and live together within the framework of reality that is constantly affecting our ways of living. I live in a country where the model is extractivist and that lives based on a proposal for development that does not happen eternally. So the Dominican Republic has presented our economic model depends hugely on the transferences from people from Dominican Republic sending from other countries in the world. But that does not help at all. And that's exactly the situation that is followed by the Afro descendant communities. We have to revert those processes of possession. So when we talk about the spirituality, there are processes in the world that we need to start to have or to give it a political content. And now that we have mentioned COP16, as Afro descendants, we would like to the eco-spiritual movement can help us to so that CVD recognizes the Afro-descendant peoples as our collective, a subject of collective rights. And also we need to understand what it means to all of us, the spiritual reparation, to be able to construct a philosophical perspective of what is our spiritual exercises. That I would like to close by saying an African proverb that the colonizer kills in two ways. And the second one is with the killing the memory. So we need to reconstruct our memory so we can continue defining political, spiritual,
Muchísimas
Muchas
gracias,
gracias.
ecological resistance.
Darío, Yolanda, desde los pueblos Aimaras de
From the Aimara
Latina,
towns, from all
Julio,
the
desde la
highlands,
espiritualidad
from the spirituals,
afrodescendiente a Montserrat,
especially
y
in
a la tía
Montserrat,
Suyapa que no
and
alcanzó
Suyapa,
a
who
estar
couldn't
desde la
be here,
espiritualidad garífuna, a
Garifuna,
Fernando por tu
to
reflexión
Fernando
desde
for
la
your deep
ecoteología
reflection from
y
the
la
eco-theology
confrontación frente a
of
lo que
the
se está haciendo.
confronting with what
Dos
is
buenas
happening.
noticias. La
Two good
primera, que
news. The
estamos en
first one
torno a
is
la
that we are
COP16 sobre la
preparing
biodiversidad
for
y estamos
COP16.
trabajando como
We
iglesia
are working as Latin
latinoamericana
American
en un
Church
solo
in
documento que se
one
llama la
document
Ruta
that is
Laudate
called
Deum. Y
the
ahí
route for Laudate
justamente
Deum.
ayer en nuestra reunión
And
tuvimos
in our
a los
meeting
principales
yesterday of the
evangelistas para la
main messages
indigencia. Hemos
for
incorporado el tema de
advocacy,
los
we
pueblos
have incorporated
afrodescendientes.
the fights of
Muchas
the
gracias Darío
Afro-descendant
por la
peoples
Convención
that are not
169 sobre la
recognized
salud
by the
sexual y
ILO
reproductiva. La segunda buena
160
noticia es que
declaration. Then the
nuestra nueva
second
programación
point is that
sobre
our new program
transiciones justas,
on just transitions,
ecológicas e
ecological
incluyentes,
transition and
estamos
inclusive,
incorporando muy
we
fuertemente
are
el tema de
incorporating the
gobernanza
concept
y
of
de
governance
territorio.
of
Y cuando hablamos de
earth and territories.
gobernanza,
And
estamos
we talk
hablando
about
de
governance, we are talking
autonomía
about
desde la
autonomy from
ecoespiritualidad
the
y de las
eco-spirituality
culturas
and from the
nuestras
cultures,
para que sean reconocidas,
so they
para
can
que tengamos
recognize
espacio
and we can
para la
have space
reflexión
for
y para la
reflection
construcción
and for the
colectiva
construction
desde
of a
las
collective
resistencias activas.
construction from
Y quisiera
active
finalizar hoy
resistances.
agradeciendo
And
muy
today I'd like
especialmente a
to
todos y
thank
todas por su
all of you
participación
for your
con una
participation
frase que
with
me
some
gusta
phrases
mucho de
that
otra iglesia
show
y
us
aunque
that
sea
other church
Pedro
of a
Calixto
great
Delgado, yo le llamo
President
con
Estrella.
cariño y con
I
respeto
call
don
him
Pedro, pero él
Don
insistía
Pedro,
en que no le
but he
llamáramos
insisted
obispo, que era Pedro
not to be
sencillamente,
called
y él decía
obispo.
yo,
I
predicador y obispo,
I am
me
a
comprometo a
sinner and
desfilar
always
con la
I
iglesia
confessed of
vestida
dreaming
solamente
of
de evangelio y sandalias,
a church
de
that
creer
is
en la
only dressed
iglesia
with the
a pesar de la
gospel and
iglesia,
sandals,
algunas veces de creer en el reino
sometimes of
y en
believing
todo
in the
caso
kingdom,
caminando en
but
iglesia. Este
walking as a
camino que
church.
ahora le
And
denominamos
this
sinodal
path
es
that
un
we call
camino que
synodal
incluye a todos y
is
todas
one that
en este
includes
caminar.
everybody.
Seguimos caminando.
We continue
Gracias. Nos
walking.
preparamos para el
Thank
quinto
you very
seminario,
much.
si no estoy mal.
We're ready
Un
for our
abrazo
fifth
a todos y
webinar,
todas.
and a huge hug
Muy,
to
muy
all of you.
contentos y contentas
Very
por esta
happy
jornada de
to
tanto
be
aprendizaje,
here in
tanto
this
compartir.
uh,
Bendiciones para todos y
meeting
todas.
with so much learnings and sharing. Thank you to all.